Let me see. I think it's does the Christian God exist?
Right.
In regards to the format, it's going to be checking the format. It's going to be here. Hold on. Give me one sec. Yeah, 7 minute openers, 2 rounds of 5 minute cross examinations, and then 3 minute closers. We'll time it and we'll tell you guys when your time is up. So, does the God, let me see, does the Christian God exist? Jason, since you have the affirmative, you're going to be doing your opener first. So, I'm going to set my timer, and you're going to have a 7 minute opener, and we'll go from there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you again for doing this. Ian, thank you for joining and being a part of this. I appreciate it. Props to you, respect to you, man, as a human being. As I said, my name is Jason. I'm 54 years old. I was not raised a Christian. I have no formal debate training. I have no formal education in philosophy or anything of that nature. I don't have any sort of theology degree. I'm simply an average guy that loves God and been walking with the Lord. That being said, I do believe that the Christian God does exist. I believe that Jesus existed and he proved that he is the Christian God through his death, burial, and resurrection. I know the Christian God exists based on not only on my personal relationship and experience with Jesus, but based on the historical fact that Jesus of the Bible does exist. 25 years ago, I had a supernatural encounter with Jesus after denying him almost all of my life until I was 28 years old, and experienced the love of Jesus every single day in my life now. In an instant, Jesus, the Christian God, delivered me from a lifetime of pride, addictions, anger, selfishness, thievery, unforgiveness, depression, anxiety, and delusion. The list goes on and on. I also know that the Christian God exists of Jesus, which we will discuss in this debate at some point, I would imagine. Although I expect my opponent will focus mainly on philosophical arguments, which cannot disprove the existence of the Christian God. In spite of many people thinking that faith in the Christian God is mere blind faith, this is not what the Bible teaches. In fact, Christianity is the only evidence-based faith. All right. In spite of, in order to make sense also, in order to make sense of our existence and reality, the Christian God must exist, in my opinion. That is my belief. The existence of the Christian God is self-evident and a self-authenticating truth. In fact, in order to attempt to prove that the Christian God doesn't exist, one must appeal to the very things that prove God does exist, right? It's like trying to prove, when you try to disprove that God exists, it's like trying to disprove that logic exists using logical arguments. We can delve into that a little bit deeper if you want to. I also want everybody to know that my opponent tonight claims to have been a Christian previously, but now is a proclaimed atheist. He is now arguing against the same God he claims he once believed in and was once convinced of. My opponent also stated on his live on March 21st at 2:30 p.m. that if he had to choose a religion to believe in, it would be Judaism. His explanation was that the Trinity makes no sense to him, and even though there are some things in the Torah that seem terrible, he believes that sufficient explanations of these verses have been presented. These are his own words. What my opponent appears to be unaware of is that the same God in the Torah is the same Christian God that manifested in the flesh as the Son of God, Jesus Christ. So my opponent would choose the Christian God if forced to choose a God. Keep that in mind tonight as he argues against the existence of this God. This is important to remember because I have a strong feeling that at some point in this debate, my opponent will be making philosophical arguments against God being all loving, all knowing, all powerful, based on some Old Testament scriptures and calling it an internal critique. If atheists are absolutely convinced that the Christian God doesn't exist, it seems irrational of them to spend so much time arguing and trying to prove that he doesn't exist. The truth is, they know the Christian God does exist, and what they're actually doing is suppressing the truth. Do they spend this much time trying to prove that unicorns, leprechauns, and Bigfoot don't exist? You know what I've also noticed about atheists? I've also noticed that I rarely see atheists going into Muslim lives, Buddhist lives, or Hindu lives declaring that their God or gods don't exist. Why is that? My opponent also stated yesterday on his live that he attacks Christianity because he said it is a detriment to society. Yet it was Christian abolitionists that actually ended the atrocity of slavery in America. It's the Christian God that condemns racism, prejudice, and hate, and even commands us to love everyone, even those that hate us. It's the Christian God that loves unconditionally. In fact, the Christian God is love. It's Christians that protect the lives of the unborn. It's Christians that start orphanages and pregnancy crisis centers. It's Christians like Isaac Newton, Nicholas Copernicus, Max Planck, Tycho Brahe that started the scientific revolution and helped develop the scientific method that atheists love so much and put so much faith in. I ask you, is science a detriment to our world and to our society? I think not. On the other hand, the atheistic worldview that classifies humans as nothing more than stardust, a clump of cells with no objective purpose or value, has led to millions of babies being slaughtered out of mere convenience. It's an atheistic worldview that leads to valuing certain groups of people over others based on which group has evolved more than the other. It's an atheistic worldview that convinces people that there is no God that can help them, and they end up feeling hopeless, which sadly has led to many people taking their own lives. It's an atheistic worldview that concludes there is no objective morality, which justifies immoral behavior and even worse, promotes at times immoral behavior based on each person's individual preferences or opinions. It's an atheistic worldview that concludes it's okay not to forgive others, to be angry, to be bitter. It's okay to be revengeful. It's okay to hate some people. Yet in spite of all this, my opponent and other atheists have no issue with identifying with atheism and labeling themselves atheists. I say atheism is the detriment to society and individuals, not Christianity or the Christian God. And I'll finish with this and I'll yield my time to Ian. I challenge my opponent tonight to prove that the Christian God doesn't exist. If he's able to do so, he will accomplish something that no one else has yet been able to do. As he makes his arguments against the Christian God, I want you to keep in mind a few things. Philosophy neither proves nor disproves the existence. To disprove the existence of the Christian God, one must prove that Jesus did not exist, was not crucified, and did not raise from the dead. Arguing that God does not have the attributes that Christians believe the Christian God possesses does not prove the Christian God doesn't exist.
That's time. Finish your last sentence.
Yeah, that's my last sentence. Does not prove that the Christian God doesn't exist any more than me proving Ian doesn't have the attributes that are closest to him, describe him as. That would not prove that he doesn't exist. Ian, I love you.
Cutting it off there.
Always will. Come back to your creator, bro.
Cutting it off there. So that will be Jason's opening statement. That was 7 minutes. Ian, it's now your turn. You're going to be doing the negation. I can start your time when you say your first word.
Hallelujah, I've been converted. Just kidding. I want you to imagine that you're traveling to a new kingdom. The reputation of the kingdom is that it's ruled by a benevolent, wise, and powerful king who ensures that it's a wonderful place. From a distance, the kingdom looks glorious, not very big, but situated in green rolling fields, cities shining in the sun. As you cross the border, you're filled with high expectations. However, as you proceed, you realize with horror that bodies of men, women, and children are hanging from lampposts along your route. And you reconsider, it doesn't seem like it's true that the kingdom can be ruled by a powerful, wise, and benevolent ruler. Perhaps this is an outlying area and the ruler does not know. But this means that the ruler is not well informed, implying that he is perhaps not as wise as he was reported to be. It could also be that he knows about the killings, but he can do nothing to prevent them. So maybe he is actually not powerful. Furthermore, it might be that he knows about the bodies and he could prevent the killings, but he does nothing. If this is the case, we can conclude that he is not so good. Maybe he is morally indifferent and does not care. Even worse, maybe he is responsible for the killings, it has become clear that the kingdom is not under the control of a ruler who is all powerful, all wise, and all benevolent. The argument that I'm going to be putting forward tonight is the evidential problem of evil as the main argument that I'm going to be relying on. This argument functions under a data paradigm where we think about what we would expect if this world is ruled by a God who is good, powerful, and knowledgeable about all aspects of the world and to maximum degrees of all of these properties. We ask ourselves, what type of world would we expect to see? Probably a pretty good world, probably a world that reflects this kind of love. But when we look around, we see a horror show, and it makes us think that a good, loving God who's all powerful and all knowing cannot possibly exist. There's a couple of evils that I'll be laying out here that I think are strong evidence for the non-existence of the Christian God. The first evil that I'm going to be laying out is natural disasters. Between earthquakes, tsunamis, and all other natural disasters, there's over 200,000 deaths every single year. In the past, earthquakes have been so bad that they've taken the lives of nearly 1 million people. That's crazy. There's absolutely no reason why a good, loving God would create a world where one of the properties of the world is that it causes people to be unalived en masse. The second piece of data that I'm going to be putting forward for the evidential problem of evil is teleological evils. Some of these designs that are present in nature, if they were indeed designed, are downright cruel. I'll specifically point out the short-tailed North American shrew. This shrew causes paralysis in its victims. It caches them away. Rats are highly intelligent, and they get paralyzed by the short-tailed shrew, and then they're slowly gnawed away at over time. If God designed the short-tailed shrew, then God is perhaps the most evil being that could possibly exist. This is not a good, loving God. This is a revels in cruelty. The third piece of data that I'll put forward is evolution. Evolution is the single most cruel way you could bring about the current state of things. The driving mechanism of evolution is natural selection. It's things surviving and reproducing and taking the lives of other things. Only the things that are good at surviving and reproducing get to survive and reproduce, or at least they're more likely to. All the other things get brutally unalived. This is a horrible process, and it's been going on for the past, like couple billion years. Australian wildfires, koalas were incinerated. Events just like this have been going on for the past billion years. Feeling, thinking, living creatures have been experiencing horrors. The next piece of data that I'm going to put forward is just the evidence related to the female anatomy. The majority of pregnancies in the female anatomy are miscarried. So if, like Jason says, these pregnancies, these fetuses are in fact babies, then the way that God designed the female anatomy is such that it promotes abortion. If you think atheists do a lot of abortions, you should see what God's design is up to. The next argument that I'm going to focus on is just the argument that prayer is useless. Premise one, either what you're praying for is perfect or it is not perfect. That's the law of excluded middle. Premise two, if what you're praying for is perfect, then it was already a part of God's plan. Premise three, if it was already a part of God's plan, then the prayer didn't change anything. Premise four, the other alternative is that the thing you're praying for is not perfect. If the thing you're praying for is not perfect, then God cannot and will not do it. If God cannot and will not do it, then your prayer didn't change anything. Thus, the conclusion, either way, necessarily, your prayer didn't do anything. It doesn't change anything, which means Christianity is false just on that basis alone. I'd like to close things out with probably... I guess because Jason was hinting at tag stuff, I'll run two more arguments. The next argument that I'll run is the funniest argument that everybody should be running against presuppositionalists. Jason claims that his God is self-authenticating, that it's self-evident. So here's an argument. If God exists, then I know that he exists. I don't know that he exists. Therefore, God doesn't exist. And finally, I'll wrap things up with my favorite verse in the entire Bible. He went up from there to Bethel, and while he was going up on the way, some small boys came out of the city and jeered at him, saying, "Go away, bald head! Go away, bald head!" When he turned around and saw them, he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 she-bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. And with that, I yield my time.
Okay. And that will conclude your opening statement with 3 seconds left on the clock. So with that, both of the opening statements have been spoken to the audience. So we're going to start the first round of cross-examination. Jason, you're going to start by asking questions to Ian. You get 5 minutes. And don't start yet. Let me set the clock. And go ahead. You can start your cross-examination, Jason.
All right, thank you. So I want to point out quickly, briefly, Ian did exactly what I prophesied he was going to do. He basically made a bunch of philosophical appeals to try to deny the existence of God. Ian, my first question is to you. Can philosophy either prove or disprove the existence of God?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's not according to what most philosophers say. They say that philosophy cannot prove or disprove the existence of God. Okay, what made you appeal to? Again, I said he would appeal to God not being all loving, God not being all powerful, God not being perfect. Again, he's just making philosophical arguments. He did nothing to address the basis of my argument or the basis of my faith. He made no comments or rebuttal to anything that I said regarding the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ was God in the flesh. So what I would like to ask you, I have a couple of syllogisms myself. Premise number 1, Jesus is real. He's not a mythical being. Premise number 2, Jesus is the Christian God. Conclusion is, therefore, the Christian God exists. Ian, do you agree or disagree that Jesus, a historical Jesus, actually existed?
Yeah, I think a historical Jesus actually existed.
Okay. Do you agree that he died by way of crucifixion?
Yeah, I agree that he died by way of crucifixion.
All right. Do you believe it's historically accurate that the claims of a physically resurrected Jesus were made very early on after his crucifixion?
What do we mean by very early on?
Within days.
Within days?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that.
Okay, this is what history tells us, not only in the Gospels, but even like 1 Corinthians 15, which is believed to be written anytime between 30 to 40 A.D. Obviously, Jesus would have been crucified around 33 A.D., so I would say it's probably sometime right after that. These claims were being made in the very city that Jesus was crucified to the very people that had him crucified. At the time that the resurrection was being proclaimed, based on this, would that be a falsifiable claim?
That the resurrection, this has like a presupposition in it that I would reject.
I'm asking you, let me restate my question. At the time that the early Christians, according to history, began proclaiming that they were having an experience with a physically resurrected Jesus, was it able to be falsified? Yes or no?
I'm sorry, which claims are we referring to?
That people had encountered a physically resurrected Jesus.
Which people?
The apostles, the Jews that were there at the time. Yes, like Peter, Paul, James, Mary, Magdalene, all of these individuals that were making the claims. Was it able to be falsified?
I'm going to reject the presupposition that they were making.
Not a presupposition.
I reject the presupposition that they were making the claims.
So you you disagree with atheist scholars like Bart Ehrman, who attest and say that yes, it is true that and Gary Habermas and all of these other theologians and scholars that say that the resurrection was proclaimed very early on. This is not something that was being proclaimed hundreds or thousands of years later. Literally. Okay, so do you
specifically rejecting that the apostles made the claim?
Okay, let me ask you: do you agree, disagree with the historical consensus that the tomb of Jesus is empty?
I don't think we even know where the tomb of Jesus is.
Okay, according to the majority of scholars agree that the tomb where Jesus was buried was found empty shortly after his death. Here's some other evidence for the empty tomb: the lack of conflicting evidence. There's no credible historical evidence suggesting that the body was ever found or that the tomb was not empty. Do you have any evidence of anybody ever claiming that the dead body of Jesus was seen weeks or days after his crucifixion?
The body?
Yes.
Do I have any evidence that the body itself was seen after his crucifixion?
Yes.
I guess no, I don't.
Okay, can you give me a reason why neither the Israelites nor the Romans, who hated Jesus, who wanted to squash Christianity forever, if Jesus had not physically risen from the dead, why did neither one of those two powerful groups of people bother to falsify the claim that Jesus had resurrected physically?
Because nobody was making the claim.
That is not true. Prove that.
Prove that nobody was making the claim immediately after?
Yeah, we have historical records that says that the people were making the claim.
Which ones?
Peter, Paul, Mary, Magdalene,
Where can I
James.
read?
Yes, all of these individuals were proclaiming that they had encountered the physically resurrected Jesus.
According
and
to
they
what?
did not denounce this proclamation, so much so that they were horribly unalive for this
Time's up.
proclamation.
Finish your last sentence.
Source?
Okay, so no, I have no more questions. He didn't answer any of my questions. He dodged and deflected. He didn't answer any of the questions. But
That'll
it's
be it.
go ahead.
Okay, Ian, it's your turn for your cross-examination. It's 5 minutes, and I'll start whenever you say your first word.
Why does God hate fetuses so much that he would design like the female anatomy in this way?
Yeah, so God didn't design the female anatomy in such a way. The problem is that there was the fall of human beings, and because of that, we live in a sin-cursed world. When God created Adam and Eve in the garden before the fall of man, everything was perfect. The only reason why sickness, death, and disease even exist was because of the fall of human beings.
How would you explain the fact that dinosaurs had cancer then?
Prove that dinosaurs existed.
Yeah, we have their bones, which not carbon date, but they radiometrically date back
Prove that
to
these are actually
hundreds of
dinosaur
millions
fossils.
of years.
Yeah, I reject that. I don't think there's sufficient
Okay.
evidence.
Yeah, we reject dinosaurs. Got it. Sure.
Yeah,
What
that's
about the
a
mosquito?
presupposition.
We have
It's a supposition, just like you said about the claims of the resurrection. Your claim about dinosaurs actually existing, I ask you to prove it.
yeah. What about okay, sure. What about the mosquito that we have in amber, and the mosquito has malaria, and it's like 20 million years old?
Yeah. So there's no empirical way to date the age of anything. These are built-in presuppositions to deep time. Any sort of dating methods that you use all have flaws.
Do you think scientists are just like jerking their gherkin? Like, what do you think scientists are getting up to?
Yeah, do I think that there are scientists that have bias and allow that into their experiments and their tests? Absolutely. Because there are scientists on the other side with just as much education and degrees as the scientists that you would quote that say that the earth is not billions of years old.
Why does God let kids get unalived by cancer?
Yeah, so it's not the will of God for any kid to die of cancer. They are supposed to be healed. The reason why they don't is not because of God. God doesn't give anybody cancer. But again, it goes back. The only reason why cancer.
I'm so sorry. Wait. I don't need the Adam and Eve story again. If there was a button in front of you, and if you push that button, it would cure cancer, would you push that button?
All right. So first of all, the reason why sickness and disease exist.
Wait. That's not the question.
Yeah.
If there was a button in front of you, and if you push that button, it would cure cancer, would you push that button?
God did something even better than a button, so nobody has to die of sickness. But that's a totally complete subject.
Okay, wait.
It's a totally different subject. Are you going to stick to hold on? Are you going to stick to the debate?
Oh my God! Look at this dodging Daniel. That's fine. We'll run it.
No, I'm not dodging.
What was Jesus's gender before he came into the earth?
Jesus, before he came to earth as God, is a spirit. He's a male, according to the Word of God.
And was he made that way by like some sort of part?
God wasn't.
Did he have like
made.
the male parts?
God isn't made. When Jesus came as God, when Jesus came as God in the flesh, he was a male. God.
I'm sorry, and what made him a male before he had a body?
Because God says he is. God says.
Oh wait! Oh my God! So Jesus self-identified as a man? Based trans allyship? Oh my God, that's incredible.
No, he's not trans. So you're just what you're doing right now.
Jesus was a man because he identified as one?
He calls himself him, right? He refers to himself as him, created in his image.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
What
you
does
just
this
like
have to do with-
self-ideas.
Hold on. So Ian, what does this have to do with God, the Christian God existing?
I was just wondering if you're a trans ally.
Whether he's a male or a female, what does that have to do? How does that either prove or disprove that the Christian God doesn't exist? You're doing exactly what I did.
Wait, hold on. Wait, it's my cross-ex. It's my cross-ex.
My apologies. Go
No,
ahead.
that's totally fine. That's totally
Give me
fine.
this time back that I took.
Why does no, it's okay. Why does God so let's say that there's like a deer in the woods and the deer gets crushed by trees and has to like get unalived in like a slow, painful, horrible way. Why wouldn't God take the deer out of its misery? Like, why does the deer have to experience all the suffering to the end?
Again, everything in this world, we live in a fallen, broken, messed up world because of sin. And so bad things are going to happen. But you keep appealing to this whole problem of suffering and evil, which is only a problem in a God worldview anyway. Even according to Richard Dawkins, since you want to make...
I don't care about Richard Dawkins. He's like a pseudo-intellectual hack. Wait, I super don't care about Richard Dawkins. Wait, but who did Adam and Eve's children sleep with? Who did they have kids with?
As far as I know, according to the Bible, they slept with each other.
Is incest always wrong?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily? Did we hear that right? Not necessarily?
It is now. It's not necessary.
So morals are relative?
No.
Oh, but back then it wasn't wrong, and now it is wrong, but not necessarily? But wait, so morals are objective. Is it objectively wrong to do incest?
It is now, yes.
Okay.
But was it then?
Okay, we'll stop it there.
Okay.
We'll go to the next cross-examination. Jason, it's your turn. You have a 5-minute cross-examination. It starts when you say your first word.
Sure. Ian, what is the goal of the debate for you tonight? What do you hope the audience or myself gets from this? What is your purpose?
My purpose of this debate is to prove through logical argumentation that the Christian God does not exist.
Okay, so through logical argumentation. All right, let me ask you a couple of questions then. Is it logically impossible for a maximally great being to exist?
A maximally great being. What does it mean to be maximally great?
Is it logically impossible for a maximally great being to exist?
Yes, I'd say so, because in this instance, there's going to be great-making properties that contradict with each other. For example, there's probably a contradiction between being all just and all merciful, because sometimes when you give somebody a punishment, you're not giving them mercy, so you can't be all just and all merciful, for example.
Yeah, so this is your philosophical opinion, and many philosophers would disagree with you. The overwhelming consensus is that it is not logically impossible for a maximally great being to exist. What law of logic does it violate that a God creator exists?
The law of non-contradiction.
How does a creator existing violate the law of non-contradiction?
Yeah, because time can't be created, which means the universe can't be created. There would be a contradiction in the idea that an immaterial mind created the universe.
Who says that time is created?
Because space-time is the fundamental substance of the universe. So if God created the universe, then God would need to create space-time.
How do you know that God isn't space-time?
Because that would be blasphemy. And I think you're a Christian.
How is that blasphemy?
Because that would make you a pantheist.
Show me in the Bible where it says that God is outside of space and time.
So typically, ever since I believe Aquinas, but it could have been earlier or later than that, there's been like a creator-creature distinction, which holds that the Earth, the planet, the universe is separate from God. That these are not, like, God is not the universe. Otherwise, you'd be a pantheist.
Yeah, you're a pantheist because you believe that the universe is eternal, essentially that the universe is the source of everything. So you would be more the pantheist than I would. Show me where that God is outside. Show me any scripture in the Bible where it says that God is outside of space and time.
Yeah, just that he was alone in the beginning.
If that doesn't, obviously, if God exists, he exists somewhere. And we're talking about time. The beginning is time. Show me a verse that says that God is outside of space and time.
Sure, yeah. Let me pull it up.
By the way, you said that it was logically impossible for a maximally great being to exist. That is not the consensus among philosophers whatsoever. Anybody in here out of the 440 something, it's a simple Google search. Is it logically impossible for a maximally great being to exist? The answer is no.
Yeah,
Is
so
it
the verse you're looking for is Psalm 92.
Hey, what does it say?
Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God.
Yeah, that doesn't say that God is outside of space or time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. So, where was he in this instance before he had created anything?
How
Where
do you
was
define space?
he? I don't know. Just however the physicists define it.
Right. Well, if something exists, it has to exist somewhere.
Where does God exist? Or I'm sorry, it's your cross-ex.
God fills all time and all space. The reason why eternity exists is because of God. The reason why any space exists, the reason why anything exists is rooted in God. So anyway, I just want to point out that you disagree with the overwhelming majority of philosophers that a maximally great being that it's logically impossible for it to exist. My last question for you: does the universe have a beginning?
No.
Okay, can you prove that?
Yeah.
So you disagree with the overwhelming consensus among scientists and physicists that the universe began with the Big Bang?
I would reject the presupposition that this is the majority view.
Well, that's just as simple that this is what study does, research does. The overwhelming consensus, anybody can look it up, but I'll finish with that. So Ian not only disagrees with a lot of philosophers, he disagrees with even physicists and scientists, according to his worldview. I'll yield the rest of my time if there's anything left.
Okay, I'm stopping the time there. You had 22 seconds left on the clock. So, Ian, you're going to do your 5-minute cross-examination, and this will be the end of 2 rounds of cross-examination. You can start anytime. I'll start when you say your first word.
Do you think that prayer is useful?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree with the law of excluded middle that either what you're praying for is perfect or it is not perfect?
The law of excluded middle, to my understanding, means that something is either true or false. I don't see where the law of excluded middle refers to something being perfect or imperfect.
So either P or not P.
It's either true or false.
Yeah. So either it is the case that what you're praying for is perfect, or it is not the case that what you're praying for is perfect.
I don't see how that logically follows.
You don't. Okay. So I don't know. Maybe we'll just learn something about the law of excluded middle. So the law of excluded middle is a law related to propositions. Let me pull up like a formal one for you. Yeah. Okay.
This is a clarification question. Are you asserting that the law of excluded middle necessitates that something is either perfect or not perfect?
So with not P or P being any proposition, that's the law of excluded middle according to Bertrand Russell. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are we feeling this one? Are we not feeling this one?
I mean, I thought I have a pretty good grasp of the law of excluded middle. I don't know how that relates to either a prayer request being a perfect prayer request or not perfect prayer request. But for the sake of the conversation to move along,
sure.
I'll just agree with you.
Yeah.
So prayer request is perfect or not perfect.
Yeah. So what you're praying for, if what you're praying for is perfect, would you agree that it was already going to be a part of God's plan?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't know what is perfect. I rely on only God. Only God knows what is perfect. I have no problem admitting.
The question doesn't require you to know it. The question is just asking if it's the case that what you're praying for is perfect, then is it the case that God was already going to do it?
Ian, I don't know that. Do you understand what the purpose of prayer is?
I'm just asking you if God. So would you agree that God does everything perfect, that every single thing that God does is perfect?
Yes, everything God does is perfect, yes.
Does God always do the perfect thing? If there's a perfect thing to do, is God always going to do it?
Whatever God does would be considered to be perfect.
Yeah, could God ever do something that's imperfect?
It doesn't require him to do everything that is possibly perfect. If he chooses not to do something, that doesn't mean that it's imperfect.
But in that case, wouldn't doing nothing need to be perfect?
It could be.
Oh, could it not be?
Could it not be to do nothing? No, that could be the perfect thing to not do anything. Could be the perfect thing to do.
Does God do nothing if and only if doing nothing is the perfect thing to do?
All right, so now you're just talking in circles. Can we just break down if you want to?
It's my cross-ex, and if we're talking in circles, it's because you're being a dishonest interlocutor.
No, I can't answer a question that I don't understand because it sounds like word salad.
Okay, wait. So
what is the problem? How did hold on?
Could God do? Wait. Hold on. Does God do nothing if and only if doing nothing is the perfect thing to do?
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying. So tell me how.
So you say that sometimes God does nothing. Or is the only situation where God is going to do nothing a situation in which doing nothing is the perfect thing to do?
Yes, whatever God does is going to be perfect. Whether he chooses not to do any sort of action, if he chooses to...
fuck it. Wait, was it perfect for God to maul the kids with bears?
If he tells me no...
Wait, I don't care. Was it perfect to maul the kids with bears?
Okay, first of all, in that scripture that you read, show me where it says God mauled the bears.
Do you think it was just a coincidence?
Show me where it says God.
Do you think it was just a coincidence?
What is it? Who called the bears?
Fine, whatever. That's fine.
Whatever,
I won't waste everyone's time with this one.
Show me where it says that God mauled the bears.
Whoa.
Show me where.
Damn.
Show me where.
You were begging me in DMs to go easy on you. This isn't the talk of someone who wants me to go easy on them. Was it perfect when God said that you could own slaves?
Hey.
Was it perfect?
God doesn't condone slavery. You're just a
wait. Who gave the law? Who gave the law that said who gave the law that said you can own slaves? Who gave that law?
God does not condone slavery.
Who gave the law? Answer, scumbag. Who gave that law? Who gave the law? Scumbag. Who gave the law?
Now you want a name call. That's fine.
Who gave the law that said you can own slaves in Leviticus? Who's giving the law in Leviticus?
It's not talking about the slavery that you're implying that it's talking about.
Wait, I'm not implying anything.
Yes, you are.
Who gave the law that said you can own people as property?
Hey, does the Bible also...
Who gave the law that says you could own people as property? Who gave that law?
God gave laws around people in indentured servitude, people that willingly contracted themselves as a way to make a living and to...
Do you own an indentured servant for life?
Finish the last sentence.
Yeah, the last question. Do you own an indentured servant for life?
You can answer that.
I don't know.
Okay.
The answer is no. Okay.
No, it's not. I said I don't know. I don't think that if I remember correctly, that anybody that was considered to be an indentured servant was free to go after 7 years. There were certain guidelines around that. And by the way,
okay, we'll cut it there. There. We're gonna go on to the closers. Sure. Jason, since you were the affirmative, you'll start with your closer. That's gonna be 3 minutes, and the time starts whenever you say your first word.
Absolutely. So as I stated in my opening, the foundation of the Christian faith is the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. God came as Jesus Christ. God was manifested in the flesh, justified in the spirit. As I stated at the beginning of this debate, that my opponent would do nothing to prove that Jesus wasn't God, to prove that Jesus didn't raise from the dead. He did exactly what I knew he would do. He would just made a bunch of philosophical arguments, appealing to things like God can't be all loving, God is not perfect, God is not all knowing, all of these things, that God, there's a problem of evil. Yet as an atheist, he has no objective standard of morality. Even Richard Dawkins says the problem of evil is only an issue in a God world. The fact that Eden is even aware that evil exists demonstrates that he knows deep in his heart that the Christian God does actually exist. He did nothing to disprove that the Christian God doesn't exist. He simply relied on philosophical arguments, and according to the overwhelming majority of philosophers, philosophical arguments neither prove nor disprove the existence of God. He did nothing to address my main argument, that Jesus Christ came as God in the flesh, that he was crucified for the sins of human beings, that he rose from the dead on the third day. He had no answer for why nobody ever falsified the claim. He just simply said that I was just presupposing that these people were making this claim. Anybody that has done any study of history knows that this is simply just a ridiculous answer on his part. Even atheists like Bart Ehrman do say that the resurrection was proclaimed very early on and it could have been falsified. And I stand that the Christian God does exist because Jesus Christ died and rose himself again on the third day, just like he said he would. And he opens his arms to all of you, even you, Ian. Even though you reject God, you hate God right now, he still loves you. I love you. God bless everybody. Jesus Christ is the Christian God and he does exist. I'm done.
Okay, I'm pausing your time there. You had 1 minute and 7 seconds left on the clock. Ian, you're gonna do your closing statement, and that will be it. It'll be 3 minutes, and I'll start it whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the host, thank the audience, and especially I'd like to thank Jason for the productive dialogue. I think everybody learned something and came out of it a better individual, even. Richard Dawkins can lick my fucking taint. I don't give a fuck what Richard Dawkins has to say about the problem of evil. He's not a philosopher. But if we look to like actual these
The
people take
manacle
the
was back
problem
on
of
his
evil quite
ankle.
seriously.
The padlock
Even all the
firmly
Christian
latched to the
philosophers hold
He wanted
that
to
the
clean
problem
off
of
more than
evil is
anything, to get
especially
this taste out of his mouth and this
rejection. We've heard no evidence other than, quote, scholars. We've heard no evidence other than, quote, historians. We've heard no evidence other than, quote, scientists, except, of course, when we're rejecting the scientific consensus that, like, dinosaurs exist, despite the fact that we have their bones. I guess you, as an audience member, you should evaluate who won this debate like this. If you think that dinosaurs existed, then you should evaluate this as a win because the Adam and Eve theodicy goes straight out the window, and that was his only defense. If you think dinosaurs exist, then you can mark Christianity as false. That's the first layer of the debate. If dinosaurs existed, Christianity is false. Second layer, for the exact same reason, if you think incest was always wrong, then you can mark Christianity as false because that means God would have made Adam and Eve to be doing this, which means God would now be on the hook for designing the female anatomy in such a way that it leads to like all of these miscarriages, which in his view is babies, which means that God designed the female anatomy to abort like literal billions of babies. So those are like the first layers of the argument. The most important ones, if what else? What else? Oh yeah, I mean, so this is going to be true as well for the problem of animal suffering. That the horrible, horrific, awful, cruel way that God brought this world into being, and the horrible, awful, cruel way that animals are forced to exist on this world, insofar as Jason's theodicy is out the window, that means that you should be evaluating this as a really strong reason to not believe in God. The fact that animals suffer such horrific fates is extremely surprising if theism is true. It's extremely unsurprising if naturalism is true. So this is a point in favor of naturalism. We haven't heard any evidence for any of this. We have no reason to think that morality isn't possible under the atheist worldview. All of these are just like last minute haymakers that ignore like the good, strong, solid foundations of all of it. Also, Jason was dodging like a coward during all the slavery questions. It says you can own people as property. You can give them to your children. They are slaves for life. The Hebrew word literally means property for life.
Time's up. Finish your last sentence.
Yeah, my last sentence is the final reason you could come to the conclusion that I won this debate is the 2 Kings 2:23 verse. If you're of the opinion that the two she-bears coming out of the woods and mauling 42 of the boys was somehow connected to God, then you could probably mark that as a reason why the God of the Bible is not all good, leading to a contradiction, leading to its falsity.
Okay, we're gonna stop it there.
Can I reclaim my last minute real quick just to make a final brief comment about the debate itself, not about, I'm not going to address Ian specifically.
Okay. Ian, would you be okay since you had 1 minute left on the
Sure,
clock?
yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
you've got your 1 minute. Go ahead.
I just want to make it perfectly clear. I don't care about winning or losing a debate. I'm here to share the love of Christ. I was here to try to plant seeds in Ian's heart and those others' hearts. I don't need to win a debate to solidify or affirm my faith in Jesus Christ. I care more about people than I do care about winning debates. Winning a debate is about pride. It's about ego. It's about self. But winning souls and preaching the gospel is about the love for other people and humanity and about the ability to humble yourself. So I really don't care who you guys think actually won or lost the debate. All I care about is that you heard the word of God tonight and that you realize that you're not an evolved bacteria, that you are created in the image of God, and this God loves you, always has and always will. I'm done.
Okay. That was a minute, but you had 17 seconds left on the clock. That will be the conclusion of the debate, and we will be putting up a poll for the audience to vote to see who they thought won. I think there's an